Hi guys and welcome back to Is It Worth It Reviews. Today we are going to take a look into a Bluetooth speaker OEPLAY MusicStar. First of all that I wanted to mention is that here I am having a first version. So when this speaker debuted sometime late last year, I believe, it had only Bluetooth connection, so no wired connections whatsoever. The USB in the back was for some sort of firmware update, not for audio connectivity. But later on, OEPLAY released the second version that also had Bluetooth connectivity, like this one, but added several wired options. Some of them are digital, like USB and optical, and some are analog, like 3.5mm stereo jack. So you can connect more things to this speaker either by using wires or wirelessly over Bluetooth. But because I have this first Bluetooth version only that company sent me immediately after it was released, I'm only going to talk about that one and the sound fidelity, and is this Bluetooth speaker actually good value for your money? Talking about the money, currently you can purchase one speaker, so one mono speaker, for $469 at Indiegogo, a website that seems to function similarly to Kickstarter. And if I remember correctly, the first original version was actually on the Kickstarter, and that early bird price is $469. Supposedly that's with 50% discount, meaning that it will be twice the price once it goes into mass production and you can just order it without any waiting. That said, currently if you want to buy two speakers to have a stereo, which you can because they will connect between each other and they will provide stereo setup, you have to pay $900. That's like early bird price. But what do you get for that kind of money? Well, first of all, you get something that looks very stylish. Immediately when I looked at this speaker, it reminded me of Bang & Olufsen speakers. And that's this evergreen style that never goes out of fashion. It's not new. It's been reintroduced to us lately by mostly like North European countries like Sweden and Norway, etc. But it actually, this kind of styling started, I think, in the 50s or something like that of the last century. And I really think it's evergreen. It looks great, especially with its own dedicated stand, which are three legs, wooden legs, that you just screw into the speaker itself. And it's very firm, stable, it looks great. I love the aesthetics of it. Next, you also have really great build quality. Just when you take and lift this one up, you realize how weighty it is. When you knock on it, it's so well damped. It reminds me on CAF LS50 speakers, and those are one of the best acoustically inert speakers that I've ever had an opportunity to knock on. And if you see a wobble, that's because I had to lift this speaker on several yoga blocks because it's a short speaker. Without those yoga blocks, it would be somewhere around here, and if I wanted you to see it, I would have to aim the camera at my crotch, which is like not the optimum way of recording this video, I suppose. And the drivers being used on this one is an ATM tweeter, and I think this is a 4-inch midwoofer cone. And the design is bass reflex, ported design. So if you look into the back, there is a bass reflex port. And I'll put some text specs on the screen so you can see that for yourself. But what I'll be focusing on in this review is how it sounds and why would you want to have this speaker, or maybe why you wouldn't. So I took my phone, I activated Bluetooth connection, and I connected to the speaker pretty flawlessly. And I noticed that the only type of connection I had available is SBC Bluetooth. And because I couldn't find nowhere on the official website and in the specs which Bluetooth codecs are actually supported, I tried forcing LDAC, aptX, etc., but only SBC would work with several phones I tried with this speaker, which is okay, but not optimal, because SBC is relatively low bitrate Bluetooth codec. It's definitely lossy. But that said, let's talk about how does this speaker actually sound in real life. And I'll quickly tell you that tonally speaking, this speaker is well judged. It has slightly warmer bassier and mid-bassier sound, but it's not overdoing it in a way that you would say that this is bass head speaker or just for somebody listening electronic and techno music. It's in a way that it will tend mostly to people that are not coming from true hi-fi products, but from a commercial audio products or PC speakers or something like that, because most of these speakers, they boost bass frequencies and they do not have very resolving and prominent higher frequencies. And it's the same with this one. It feels more bassy, the bass is well controlled, it's deep, it's punchy, it's present, gives really good core to the tone overall, but then as you move up the frequency spectrum, mid-range is there, it's quite detailed, highs, you can hear things happening in that spectrum, but don't expect some really open and airy sound and any sort of shimmer or I don't know. This is a slightly warmer, bassier sounding product, which actually makes it really suitable for low-level listening. For example, late in the evening, when the volume is really low, because our hearing works that way, when you decrease the volume, baseline is first to go. Because human hearing is not the same on a different loudness level. If you're listening your music at 90 dB, everything will be nice and flat in terms of frequency response in your ears. But you lower it, you lower it, you lower it, and highs, they go lower faster than the mid-range, but baseline is going even faster. And that's usually why old amplifiers and receivers had the loudness button. If you listen to your music on a low volume, you activate loudness and it will lift those highs and bass a little bit more to compensate for our own hearing nonlinearity on different volume levels. And because of that, these normal commercial audio products that are more often than not listened on a lower volume level than hi-fi speakers, they tend to have bass frequencies slightly boosted. And that makes the overall sound warm and full and pleasantly thick, even at lower volume levels. So that would be about tonality, detail retrieval is decent, and I'll immediately go into like putting this into perspective depending on what are you comparing it with. Because I cannot review this one as a normal hi-fi product. Why? Because it simply cannot compete, that's why. If you take the same amount of money needed to buy just one of these stylish speakers, this is an active speaker by the way, I don't think I mentioned that anywhere in the video so far, I just sometimes think that people know things that I know, but it's not how that works. Because of course, if it's a Bluetooth speaker, it has to be active speaker. There is no way to have digital input, wireless or wired, on a speaker that is passive. That's just not possible. If you have digital inputs, it's an active speaker. That out of the way, back on the pricing, if you take 470 and you just assemble the regular hi-fi setup, for that amount of money, it's a budget setup. You could take something like SMSL A300 integrated amp for $200 US, and then you could add something like ELAC B5.2 or Wharfdale Diamonds or Monitor Audio Bronze. And that would be price comparable to this speaker. And it would sound better. First of all, you would have a stereo setup, a proper sound stage, with things happening left and right and in the middle, and definitely more detail retrieval, especially in the mid-range, upper mid-range and higher spectrum. Probably not as good of a bass presence as this one, because this is slightly bassier sounding speaker, but overall speaking, better sounding system. But yes, it would not be as pretty as this one. You would still have to use more cables to interconnect all of these devices, but it would sound nicer. Then if you take the price of two of these, that would be $900. For that amount of money, you could step up to something like Triangle Borea 3 speakers. And once again, a really nice integrated SMSL amplifier, and you could even throw in like a really decent DAC, for example, SMSL SU1. All of that would be around $700. So you still have some budget left for speaker stands, good cables. And that stereo setup would definitely sound better than the stereo setup of OEPLAY MusicStars. So when somebody asks you to name some audio brands, you immediately go to NAD, Bowers & Wilkins, Wharfedale, Monitor Audio, SMSL, Topping, etc. This speaker will not offer the sound fidelity that you would expect from that amount of money. It's that simple. But if somebody asks you about audio brand and your first thought goes to Sony, Beats, Apple maybe, I don't know, then you would probably be really happy with how this speaker sounds. It has decent amount of power, it has decent grunt, it will not leave you wanting because it sounds weak. It has really reasonable dynamics, it sounds lively, detail retrieval again is very reasonable, and if you compare those sound qualities to audio products of these commercial brands like Apple, Sony, etc., it's actually a good sounding speaker. But once you move to a true hi-fi space, true hi-fi names, this speaker doesn't sound as impressive for its price as in this previous company. It looks more stylish, it's built to a really high quality, but it doesn't sound as you would expect for a stereo setup of $900 to sound if you are truly buying traditional hi-fi system. The level of the overall sound fidelity would be along the lines of passive speakers of the complete entry-level series, such as, I'm not sure, I don't think that Wharfedale is producing those anymore, but back in my day, when I was a teenager, I remember Wharfedale Crystals. That was the series of speakers below Diamonds. And it sounded okay, it was well balanced, but it didn't have really the overall clarity, separation in the soundstage of higher, better series of speakers like Diamonds or Evolution, etc., etc. And the same could be said, for example, for Mission M30 series, like M32, 31, 33. Those were very, very popular back in 2000s when I was a kid, because those were quite affordable passive speakers. Now imagine pairing those kind of speakers with something that's not as good and as overachieving as nowadays small Class D integrated amps that SMSL is producing, but something along the lines of those older, bigger, but affordable receivers and integrated amps that you could purchase from like Yamaha or Onkyo, like the most budget model that you can find. Pair that kind of integrated amp with that most budget-friendly speaker series from like Wharfedale or Mission, and that is the overall level of sound fidelity that you do get from this speaker. It's not bad by any means, but if you buy two of these for $900, you should know that it's not actually really much better than that. What you are buying for your money is great build quality, great styling, and something that will just look really nice and cool in your place. And I can tell you that because Like in real life, in person, these look absolutely great and high quality. Many friends coming over were like, wow, these are so cool, what is this? I want one of these. That was the reaction without even asking about the price or the sound fidelity. And if those were my non-audiophile friends, when I play music from this, they would be like, wow, it sounds nice, it has energy, it has bass, it has dynamics, I like it so much, how much does it cost? And then when I say 470 for one speaker, they're like, yeah, it's a little bit pricey, but it's so cool. And that's basically it. It's a really stylish product with a really decent sound, but if you compare it directly to the best value, best sounding hi-fi products, it will not match them. So for the average viewer of my channel, where I ponder about the small differences between different DACs, if your system already contain any of these hi-fi names that I mentioned previously, this is probably not a product for you. But if you are listening your music on a TV soundbar or some sort of smart speaker that's doing like, Alexa, play that, or something similar, you will probably actually be impressed with the power and dynamics and the overall sound of this speaker. So, because iiWi stands for Is it worth it? I have to answer that question. Is this speaker worth it? Well, talking strictly about sound fidelity, and if you are an audiophile, it's not really. It's that simple. But if you're just a non-audiophile coming from the world of Apple EarPods, Beats headphones, or Sony and Samsung soundbars beneath your TV, then yes, you would be more than happy with these speakers, especially if you like their styling, and that's what attracted you the most towards them. So I suppose my last question for you in this video is, are you a normal or are you an audiophile? Let me know down below in the comments, and see you next time. Bye.